Initially, I wasn't sure if I was enjoying How I Wet Your Mother, but ultimately, it ended up being an episode that I actually thought was really moving and really important and funny when it needed to be. This is the 16th episode of the 23rd season of The Simpsons, directed by Lance Kramer. And Homer begins wetting the bed. And I have to say, it's very well animated when we see that he's wet the bed. It's done in a way that's meant to be funny. It is. It's funny to see Homer's reaction, but also at the same time, there is that sense of this actually happens. Some people will wake up and they'll wet the bed when they've, not wet the bed since they were a child, and Homer has to try and work out why this is happening. And at first, it seems like it's a karma thing, and then we dig into his dreams, and I'd say more than half of this episode is set in Homer's dreams. And to begin with, I didn't love it, but after a couple of minutes or after a couple of dream changes, I actually started to get in with it, and I liked it. I think they animated it very well. One of my favourite bits is when they're walking along the street, and the street's animated. The best way to describe it is, those mats you get as a child, street scenes, and you run your cars along them, and the road is not quite a bird's eye view, but the road bends. I hope this is making sense. But anyway, they're walking along that, and then they just keep walking, and the page bends, so the screen bends. I'm terribly describing it, but I really enjoyed that. And there are other little bits and pieces that help to distinguish between the normal Simpsons style and slight differences with Homer's dream world. Some of the dream things were quite interesting. Some of them were a little bit flat, but then a character comes in who helps Homer to dig a little bit further, quite a lot further, into his past. And we get some really moving moments from Homer's childhood. And I don't want to say any more than that. And I will say, don't go onto IMDb first, because the cast list will ruin it. But ultimately, I ended up enjoying it. I loved the end of it as well. I won't say what happens, but the final scene just amused me so much. A very creative episode. I think it can help to almost normalize bedwetting in adulthood, because it can happen when you're under stress, or if you're, suppressing emotions, or you're not able to process something mentally. It can manifest itself in these kinds of ways. It can also be a physical thing. If something within you is changing physically, or your bodily functions are not quite operating the way they should be, this can happen. And I think the episode helped to show that this is a thing that happens. And there's a good bit of advice. The bedwet vibration pad. It's not quite as dramatic as they are in this. I used to write copy for a company that sold these, and I think by showing these little things, by saying, hey, if this is a problem you have, this is a technique that might help. Don't worry, it doesn't work the way Homer's did. I think that's doing a really good positive thing. But of course, it does it with comedy at the forefront and makes it entertaining and engaging, but also I think really important as well. And ultimately, I really enjoyed it. There were times when I thought, I don't know if I'm going to love this, but actually, it ended up being pretty good in an episode that I really enjoyed. Also, the Robin Williams in this, it's not actually Robin Williams, but Dan Castellaneta voices Robin Williams, and I'm pretty sure he said Shazbot at one point as well, which made me happy. It's part of the dream world. I won't say the relevance or why he was in it, but it made me smile. I don't know if Robin Williams ever voiced in The Simpsons. Okay, I just googled it, and according to the Hollywood Reporter, he never did, which is quite peculiar given his amazing vocal skills. I would imagine the show approached him about it. Or maybe not, since Dan Castellaneta does an actual pretty decent Robin Williams impression, and is probably cheaper than bringing in Robin Williams. Irrelevant to this episode, but either way, it ended up being an episode that I really thoroughly enjoyed. I almost forgot to mention this. The quote, "Cork my wang wine," will stay with me forever. Disgusting mental image, but also brilliant. Definitely, ultimately, a really good episode.